Hi, Dear Astrologer from BellaDeveraOfficial.wordpress.com, and I'm making a video about Saturn with the North and South node, the North and South node of the Moon nodes, in the natal chart and in synastry. So Saturn is all about restrictions and responsibilities, and the grown-up planet. It's fears and you know not being able to just like be free and be a kid or whatever. It's all about being an adult and dealing with life, and like I said, especially fears. The north node is what you have to get better at, what you're not used to. The south node is what you're used to and what you're naturally good at. And if anyone doesn't know, your natal chart is just your astrology birth chart with your birth information, your date of birth and time and place and all that. And synastry is two different people's birth charts and the aspects they make to each other, how you two are around each other. So the north, well, let's start with the south node. The south node with Saturn is a good placement to have. You have to look at the zodiac sign and the house placement. But in general, it's a good placement to have. It's when you feel like you can. The North Node and Saturn both basically have to do with when you're older, like 30-ish and older. If Saturn is going to be something that is good happening in your life, is when you're an adult and older. You're not naturally gonna necessarily just be good at Saturn things as a child, but with the South Node though, you can be more. It's a good placement to have for being responsible. Like, and you have to look at everything in the birth chart, but it's like what you're naturally good at, Saturn things. It's when you're good at being responsible and you can like lead a group and people don't necessarily it's not like people, some people will enjoy Saturn, some people don't, or some people do at times. So it's not necessarily some like fun thing, but it's a good thing. Like, people can look up to you with this placement. And they see like a leader in you. And also Saturn is when you feel like you have to, behave a certain way around people, anywhere Saturn is in your birth chart or in synastry, Saturn makes you feel like you're being watched and being critiqued. So with Saturn in the same house as the South Node, as you get older, especially, you can let go of your fears and what people think of you. This Saturn thing that I just mentioned that is going on. You're not worried about such things. As an adult, more like with this aspect. As a child, you're like feel like you're always being critiqued, or you're not good enough or something somehow. But the house that it has to deal with, it's not like your overall whole entire being. It's just basically in a one area of life, the house and the zodiac sign especially that it's in. But with the South Node, though, being with Saturn, as you get to be an adult, that's when you really notice this aspect happening the way it does happen, that you aren't afraid of what people think of you, and you can let go of, whatever Saturn things are happening to you from other people. Like, you just don't give a crap, and you're comfortable in your own skin, and it's just Saturn, just doesn't scare you as an adult. Like I said, you're just naturally good at, responsibilities and, Saturn things. But when Saturn is with the North Node, the South Node also makes something less. So as you can see, what I said with the South Node being with Saturn makes it less. You don't have a big problem with it. But the North Node, the South Node is the dragon's tail. Where it just let's go, like Saturn things. But the North Node is the mouth, so it just it's insatiable, and it makes everything big and out of proportion and scary. And it's not like the North Node makes everything scary wherever it is, but with Saturn, it makes it scary because it's Saturn stuff. Um, so with the North Node, Saturn being with the North Node, it makes it so on the outside, you don't look like you have fears, but on the inside, you do. So what you need to do is bring those fears to the surface, and then you can get rid of them. But which can happen with anything in the birth chart or in synastry, you can work on it. But the North Node with Saturn naturally is going to give you fears and like out of proportion fears in your head, in your mind or whatever, your inner being, your deep down inside of you, your private self that you don't share with everyone else. So, but with the North Node being with Saturn, you're good at putting on a face, where you look like you don't have fears. And also with the North Node with Saturn, you have to learn responsibility with this placement. You're not naturally good at it. So you have to, realize that about this placement, and, think about the house and the zodiac sign that it's in, and, get around people that, make you feel like you can, learn such responsibilities. And so in synastry, with the South Node, I've noticed in my synastry with people, romantic and non, some more than others, some situations more than others, maybe, just depends. Especially with being an astrologer and, studying astrology while I'm, an astrologer, and studying people, the birth charts and the aspects, in synastry, I can notice, the placement that I have with this, which is my Saturn is with my South Node. And also with this placement, you have to compensate, like with these placements, like I already explained the North Node, but with the South Node, it's like you don't feel adequate enough, like growing up, but somehow you're in a situation where you can be like the head of that kind of a thing going on in your life, like, and you compensate that way with that placement, like your fears, like if I've never taken classes of astrology, I've never paid a dime for it. I'm I've learned all of the stuff I know free from the internet, from astrologers, from all kinds of astrologers. So with this placement, I can with this fear, as a child growing up, you know, let's say I studied astrology, as a child, which I didn't, but just to explain this placement a little bit, you can be the with a bunch of students, and with this placement, if you have this placement, you can be a student of astrology yourself. But to make up for the this placement, somehow you're the head of the students. You as a student are ahead of all of the students, and you learn, to get rid of your fears somehow in that kind of situation. And then when you're an adult and you don't care about all these Saturn eyes looking at you, and critiquing you, it's you don't have those fears then as an adult, and that's the kind of situation where you can you know um compensate for that. But anyway, so in synastry though, with the South Node and the Saturn being together in synastry, whenever it makes an aspect with, like, let's talk about the conjunction for one thing. With any planet, maybe, especially personal planets or ascendant, sun, and moon, a conjunction can bring up these fears that you had as a child. But then you can somehow learn from this conjunction, like the South Node and Saturn being in the same house in your birth chart, conjuncting someone else's personal planet, which is the same, being in the same house or the same zodiac sign. So it's going to play out a little bit differently, a little bit. And especially with Saturn is just kind of difficult anywhere it is. But with a conjunction, like I was saying, the zodiac sign makes it a little bit different. But especially certain zodiac signs that tend to be similar is going to bring up this kind of situation more or less. So with a conjunction, if these two planets or points or whatever in your birth chart that are making that conjunction in that certain house is conjuncting someone else's planet, it can bring up this situation, this South Node and Saturn situation as a child or as a young adult, when you're still kind of learning to let go of, worrying what people are, being like towards you in a Saturn way, So, that conjunction with that other person, it can show you these fears. It can bring them up for you, and then you can let go of it. And like I said, in the South Node with the Saturn, is naturally as an adult, not having these fears. But with the North Node, whenever this conjunction in your natal chart is making a conjunction to someone else's planet, you're gonna feel more like you have to, get a grip on your fears that are deep down inside of you. and hide them more, it's going to have this tendency of, bringing up more fears, but hiding them and acting like nothing's wrong, especially if you try to suppress it and like not deal with it, it's just going to make the aspect even more of a thing happening. So you gotta like, deal with it, not hide it. So it's opposite things going on. It's gonna be like, the South Node in the situation is gonna make it, less eventually, but the North Node is just gonna blow it out of proportion and make it bigger and make you have to deal with it. Or if you don't, it'll just keep being that kind of aspect forever if you don't learn to deal with it. And you're just gonna have a bunch of fears deep down inside you, at the surface where it's bugging you. But if you don't deal with it, you're just gonna keep having that situation happen and like, acting like on the outside like it's not a problem. Or it can be like, the South Node situation can be where, you're more happy in adult things around this person. But if it's the North Node situation, you're gonna be less of an adult around this person and more like, who cares? I don't care about this, whatever situation I'm in where I need to be an adult, I'm just gonna fool around and not care about my responsibilities, It's gonna be that kind of situation. So that's what that's about. I'm gonna make more series on this subject because it's a really important one. But I just wanted to touch on the subject in this video for now. Because it is such an important subject and so deep of a subject to study, and to tell you about. So I'll be making a bunch more videos on this series, as I can. So, leave comments if you want about this video or ask questions or whatever. So thanks for watching.